Casco class ships were built as small seaplane tenders by the USN. They were designed to operate out of small harbors and atolls and had a shallow draft. The fact that the class was very seaworthy with good habitability and that its diesel plant gave it good range made this class well suited for ocean station duty. A number of changes were made in these ships to better suit them for ocean station duty. A balloon shelter was added aft, and there were spaces devoted to oceanographic, and a hydrographic winch was added. Displacement was 2,529 tons. Her length 311 feet 7 inches. Her beam 41 feet. Her draft 13 feet 1 inch. Her machinery, she had 4 Fairbanks Morse direct reversing diesels, 6,000 braking horsepower. She had twin screws. Absecon AVP 23, WAVP 374, WHEC 374, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Her keel was laid 23 July 1941. She was launched 8 March 1942. She was commissioned 28 January 1943 in the USN, May 1949 in the U.S. Coast Guard. She was decommissioned and transferred to South Vietnam 15 July 1972. Barataria AVP 33, WAVP 381, WHEC 381, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel laid 19 April 1943, launched 2 October 1943, commissioned 13 August 1944 in the USN, 1 August 49 in the Coast Guard, decommissioned in August 69. Casco AVP 12, WAVP 370, WHEC 370. The builder, Puget Sound Shipyards, Puget Sound, Washington. Their keel was laid 30 May 1940. She was launched 15 November 1941. She was commissioned 27 December 41 in the USN, and 19 April 49 she was loaned to the Coast Guard. She was decommissioned 21 March 1969 and turned over to the USN. Castle Rock AVP 35, WAVP 383, WHEC 383, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel laid 12 July 1943, launched 11 March 1944, commissioned 8 October 44 USN, 18 December 48 U.S. Coast Guard, decommissioned in 1971. Cook Inlet AVP 36, WAVP 384, WHEC 384, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel laid 23 August 1943, launched 13 May 1944, commissioned 5 November 1944 USN, 15 January 1949 U.S. Coast Guard, decommissioned in 19 December 1971. Coos Bay AVP 25, WAVP 376, WHEC 376, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Her keel was laid 15 August 1941, launched 15 May 1942, commissioned 15 May 1943 in the USN, 4 May 1949 U.S. Coast Guard. She was decommissioned 1 September 1966 and returned back to the U.S. Navy. Dexter ex Biscayne AVP 11, WAVP 385, WHEC 385, built by Puget Sound Shipyard, Puget Sound, Washington. Keel laid 27 October 1939, launched 23 May 1941, commissioned 3 July 1941 USN, 20 September 1946 U.S. Coast Guard, decommissioned January 1968, turned over to USN. Gresham ex Willoughby AGP 9, AVP 57, WAVP 387, WHEC 387, built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel laid 15 March 1943, Launched 21 August 1943. Commissioned 18 January 1944, the USN. 26 June 46, U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 1 May 1973. Sold in October 73. Half Moon AGP 26, AVP 26, WAVP 378, WHEC 378. Built by Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel was laid 10 March 1942. Launched 12 July 1942. Commissioned 15 June 1943, USN. 30 July 1948, U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 15 July 1969. Humboldt AVP 21, WAVP 372, WHEC 372. She was built by the Boston Naval Shipyard, Boston, Massachusetts. Keel was laid 6 September 1940. She was launched 17 March 1941. She was commissioned 7 October 41 in the USN, 29 March 49 in the U.S. Coast Guard. She was decommissioned 30 September 1969. Mackinac AVP 13, WAVP 373, WHEC 373. Built by Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, Puget Sound, Washington. Keel laid 29 May 1940. Launched 15 November 1941. Commissioned 24 January 1942 in the USN, April 49 in the U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 28 December 1967 and transferred back to the USN. Matagorda AVP 56, AGP 8, WAVP 373, WHEC 373. She was built at Lake Washington Shipyards, Houghton, Washington. Keel was laid 1 February 1943. She was launched 10 July 1943. Commissioned 17 May 1944 in the USN, 25 November 46 in the Coast Guard. Decommissioned 21 March 1969 and transferred to the USN. She was sunk as a target off Honolulu. McCulloch AVP 22, WAVP 386, WHEC 386. Built by Boston Naval Shipyard, Boston, Massachusetts. Keel laid 6 September 1940. Launched 18 March 1941. Commissioned 16 December 1941, United States Navy. 8 June 1949, U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 1 January 1968. Transferred back to the USN 30 October 1968. Rockaway AVP 29, WAVP 377, WHEC 377. Built by Associated Shipbuilders Incorporated, Seattle, Washington. Keel was laid 30 June 1941. Launched 14 February 1942. Commissioned 6 January 1943, USN. 24 December 48, U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 29 January 72 and transferred back to the U.S. Navy. Unimac AVP 31, WAVP 379, WHEC 379, WTR 379. Built by Associated Shipbuilders, Seattle, Washington. Keel laid 15 February 1942. Launched 27 May 1942. Commissioned 31 December 1943 into the USN. 3 January 1949 into the U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned 29 April 88. Yakutat AVP 32, WAVP 380, WHEC 380. Built by Associated Shipbuilders Incorporated, Seattle, Washington. Keel laid 1 April 1942. Launched 2 July 1942. Commissioned 31 May 1944 in the USN. 23 November 1948 in the U.S. Coast Guard. Decommissioned and transferred to South Vietnam January 71.